Grant Morrison fans, Reddit trolls with DC subscriptions, and the 3 new fans who stuck around after the donkey fart. We are talking to you today as we get into the time as it comes for the reckoning. Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 2, Donkey Patrol After Show at AfterBuzz starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Excited to be here.
Oh, yes.
Talking
Absolutely.
Doom Patrol because I'm very excited about the show. I saw the after show that you all had last week. Great in-depth discussion. Hopefully we'll recapture that today as we get into so much more. I will be your host. My name's Tehran, alongside the one and only Oliver. He's in the building.
What's up, everyone? Ollie Drennan, follow me wherever you can. Here, yeah.
And they should follow you in your discussions on Doom Patrol because it's good stuff, and I'm glad you're going to have some interesting Oliver-like opinions on everything that happens as we talk season 1, episode 2, Donkey Patrol. So much happened in this episode, especially coming off a great first episode, culminating in the second one. We're going to be discussing the wormhole, of course. We're going to get into Cyborg as we got his appearance, and that was very exciting. We're going to get into Cyborg and his dad, Cyborg and Niles, Cyborg and Robot Man. Cyborg had a lot of relationships. Cyborg and Crazy Jane. We're going to discuss Negative Man and Rita, Rita on her own, and of course, what I cannot wait for, the discussion on Crazy Jane herself, possibly the most captivating character of all comic books on screen right now. We're going to discuss the donkey because there's no talk without the donkey, and there seems to be no Doom Patrol without this donkey either. Mr. Nobody, and who is this Mr. Nobody? And he really is somebody. And we're going to play our special segment game, Who You, which is where we pick a character and a scene and relate it to ourselves. We have some news and gossip, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that and get right into predictions.
Absolutely. We have a lot to talk about.
We have so much to discuss. So let's start with your overall thoughts on this episode 2, Donkey Patrol. Oliver.
Listen, this show is a mess. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like, I love how crazy it is, and I think we've come to the conclusion that these characters all have suffered a type of loss. And whether that loss is a person, they lost their body parts, they need to now work together because they just lost the chief. So I think they need to learn to work in tandem in order to get the chief back, and also to control their own powers too. And this is going to be a SHIT show. Because
I liked it better when it was SIH. That was great.
I can't spell, but Crazy Jane is just screwing things up. But I'm here for her.
Is she, though? Is she actually screwing things up or bringing things together? That's the concept of what I thought of this overall episode was. First of all, I love getting backstories on characters so that it allows us to empathize for them. And we got a lot of that on Robot Man in last episode, but in this episode we get this dynamic way of introducing everyone's pain and suffering through their relationship with Mr. Nobody's wormhole creation, in which we get this backstory of how things work and why they work and who they really truly are, in-depth, intimate knowledge of who they are and who we thought they were. And we get this big question, and it's a question I want to pose to everyone at home and to you, of course. Are they heroes or are they zeros?
Ooh, that's maybe I think you're onto something with that question. And if you're joining us in the chat, let us know, are they heroes or are they zeros? I think that they are somewhere in the middle at this point. You know, they don't really know much about themselves. They need to learn to maybe not be a hero, but be something just to know who they are and just to have a purpose. I think it's having a purpose.
Is this a place where they are searching for themselves, searching for their identities, or searching for their place in the world, or a combination of all three?
A combination of all three. Definitely. Absolutely. What do you think?
Well, when it comes down to it, I have to agree with you where it's somewhere in the middle where they're so used to being zeros, it's time for them to become heroes.
Yeah.
But they don't know what to do. And that's what this episode, not only it brought out to life and it brings it to fruition, and it shows us the audience, but it also showed themselves, which was a very interesting way to develop a character, because it's almost as if they're always breaking the fourth wall and they're never breaking the fourth wall. It's the way the show is done. It is a mix of Legion meets the Umbrella Academy all into one. And if we don't discuss these similarities, we have to touch on these, because if we do, we're doing it a disservice. The script writing, the cinematography, the way it's shot, the tone of the show is excellent, and it's shot with such precision and such an awareness of what this show is. It's very different than, let's say, Titans, which is also a DC subscription show, and it's so much more to come. So let's discuss this wormhole, because the wormhole is the center of the initial action. The wormhole, of course, being, as we leave episode 1, beginning episode 2, we see the development of this wormhole as they have decided to take their place in history. We are going to go out there and try to save the world. From what? We don't know. Boom. Instant problem arises. A wormhole. A wormhole that we hear narrated by Mr. Nobody. And this wormhole takes everybody. It takes the chief. It takes Crazy Jane, who throws herself in there, and it even takes Ezekiel the cockroach, who we're going to discuss a lot more later. One of my favorite characters, hands down, was Ezekiel the cockroach.
Give that cockroach an Emmy, please.
I mean,
that performance.
If you're naming the cockroach, I'm expecting a lot from this cockroach.
We need a backstory. We need an origin episode just for the cockroach.
Yeah,
please.
I'm even quoting. I'm waiting to quote the cockroach. I've done so in text many times. So, what did you think about the wormhole?
I was so confused by the wormhole. I don't know what's going on, but I think the show does a really good job of just really captivating these characters into. It just makes you want to know what the heck is going on. But I think that's really smart that they're doing these strange, odd, obscure events, because it keeps the audience watching. Like, I'm not turning this off and trying to like pause it. I'm literally watching this from start to finish.
Well, no one knows what's going on, right? That's the whole point. Even the characters don't know what's going on. Where did this come from? Why did it just suck up the entire town? Why? And it's interesting because Negative Man says this is what the world looks like when we try to live in it. Such a self-deprecating epiphany that he has at that moment, because the concept is here Robot Man is basically wants to reclaim some greatness and redemnify himself from the accident which we saw here he caused in a lot of ways, and the daughter who he never knew existed and finds out is still alive. And there a reason why Dr. Calder is keeping this from where Niles is keeping this from Robot Man.
Yeah.
Did you think so? Do you think
there's got to be a reason why he's keeping the daughter away from? You just don't do that. He says it, I did it to protect you, but I know this might be predictions, but there's got to be something huge. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing with that. You know, you think that he would want to tell him that your daughter's still alive, but there's got to be something like major. Something's not right in that. And
this is what I mean with the loose ends, and this show doing such a great job of keeping us captivated and confused at the same time. So we have this daughter. We have no idea why they've been separated from Robot Man while they're not allowed to be together. We have this wormhole going on that came out of nowhere. We have this narrator that we don't know, a piece of a segment in the first episode that is now kept playing, and he's narrating live narration to the point where later on he's literally narrating as our protagonists are acting, and they hear him, and yet they still are compelled to commit to their actions. And we have this donkey.
The donkey
is just there that Robot Man is chased after. We still don't know why. This donkey, this mystical, magical, powerful donkey that just seems to be a regular donkey. And then we have a cockroach that has the best soliloquy of TV history, I would say, right before it is sucked into this wormhole. Where did you think this wormhole led to? And did you think that everything was destroyed when you saw the wormhole?
No way. No way. I didn't think everything was destroyed because Chief ended up in the wormhole. So I'm like, no, this ain't happening. But I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know, is this wormhole a doing of Nobody? Yeah. You know, I do not know what the heck they are doing, but I think the wormhole almost kind of represents kind of what you I think it kind of represents like what you think of the world, you know, kind of like this is a way to not only, because I think what the show does is it's all about appearances. You know, these characters are kind of looked down upon because of their appearances, but when these characters go into this wormhole, we get to learn about them and unpack them and understand their origins. I love that what they did with the origin stories, especially with Victor, you know, learning what happened with him and his mom. Like, I think that's one of the best ways to do an origin story.
I thought it was very creative.
Like, it was, we didn't need a whole episode dedicated
exactly.
to that.
We got bits and pieces enough for us to empathize and sympathize with the characters without getting into this is what happened here or flashbacks or any of that. And we got enough of that last episode with Robot Man that I thought we were going to get one of those with every character, and we did not. We got something that projected us even farther and faster in a very contrite sort of way in time. Another part of the aspect of the wormhole was that Mr. Nobody created it. So, and he has it out for this group. And you're saying that you knew that the chief was going to stay alive, alive?
I think
we don't know. We don't know at this point, but you're saying, well, according to the comic book, we think is alive. And there, of course, we have to also, as we did the similarities, the comic book itself is very similar to a flawed form of the X-Men.
Yeah.
It was a darker form of the X-Men. Even the characters
Definitely.
kind of portray.
Chief kind of is the DC Professor Xavier.
Exactly.
Totally.
Is the Gotham City Professor Xavier.
He just has hair, you know, and he can't read minds, I don't think, right? I'm not sure.
We don't know. Do you think the chief has powers?
No. I don't.
Ooh, you didn't say that with a lot of confidence.
I don't think he does. I think that he's very intelligent. I think he's kind of this character who is the glue to everything. He's the glue to the Doom Patrol. And now that he is missing, he's gone. We don't know what the heck's going on with him. The team's falling apart. And I think he's
instantaneously they fall apart. As soon as he's not available
Rita's
to
falling
give him
apart.
their advice.
Literally. She needs to pull herself together literally and mentally, you know.
We already saw Rita become the Blob once again in the first episode, and now we see her go from a physical blob to an emotional blob in this second episode, where her and Negative Man basically distance themselves. They're both really afraid of the real world. One thing I didn't understand, once again, the confusion and captivation, why are they still all young, or at least look young, even though it's been such a long time? We know Rita's from the 50s, and we know Negative Man is from the 60s.
Yeah.
and Robot Man, at least he's just a brain in a robot body, so I can understand that. And if Crazy Jane has gone and come and gone, where has she been? These are parts of things that I felt like the wormhole would actually compel and let us know.
It did a good job of teasing everything, though, because even like with Rita, they teased she did something bad. There was a baby. I'm like, oh my gosh, did she kill the baby? What's up with that? So I just really think that I'm like kind of sad that. Well, I would like to think that they go back into the wormhole somehow. I mean, you know, if Chief's still there, we got to get Chief.
We have to get back in the wormhole, but we do actually get into the wormhole, and we've later on, which we're going to get to in the discussion, we find out the donkey is the key. And of course, Rita enters the wormhole, and we get a breakdown of everyone's story. And they did do an excellent job. You know who else does an excellent job? I feel like we do here at AfterBuzz.
Oh, totally. Guys, if you're tuning in live, we love you guys. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Ivan Soda, War Hero 99. I see you. Miguel, Olivia. Thanks for joining us live. If you're not joining us live, that's totally fine. But we really want to thank you for letting us be the ESPN of TV Talk. We are asking you a major favor, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We would appreciate that. That means the world to us. And if you do that, we're going to shout you out, right?
Yeah, we are. I mean, Ivan Soto is like every show.
He is MVP.
He's on it.
MVP.
Ivan Soto wins an MVP award. Who else is in the chat right now?
Oh, we're seeing Renji. Oh, I've seen that name before.
Renji's on the list.
Chaos. Oh my gosh.
Chaos is on that list.
Yes. Sorry, we got to show you guys more love. We got to read your comments, but you guys keep typing your stuff. But anyways, we love you guys. We're not only doing this for ourselves, but we're doing it for you. So until then, just keep watching, keep talking about the show, comment. We love to keep the discussion going, even when the show is not going live. So yeah, we love you guys.
We appreciate it. And please, if you're on iTunes, give us that 5-star rating we deserve. And if we don't deserve it yet, we will by the end of the show. So make sure to stay tuned and share and subscribe and tell your friends. We appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are just as much, if not more, a part of this panel than we are each and every week. Love to hear about everything you have to say in the comments below and in the live chat.
Yes.
Now, let's get to a major part. The connection to the DC universe, the first one we get, right? So we don't get the Titans reveal of Beast Boy being in Doom Patrol, but we do, which they've already changed up a couple of the characters with Timothy Dalton coming in, and it's actually, I like how it plays out, right? This is to me, I wasn't a fan of the Doom Patrol teasers, and I'm an extreme fan of Doom Patrol the show. I was not. If you watch any of the after shows, I was a harsh critic. And here we get the perfect Doom Patrol in my mind. The way it plays out, even something as simple as Brendan Fraser's voice as Robot Man plays out very well. Now we get Cyborg.
Yes.
Immediate thoughts on Cyborg. Oliver, what did you think?
I thought at first, literally, I thought he kind of, I'm not as familiar with the comics, he seems out of place. That was my first reaction. But I feel like it was such a good strategy to implement Cyborg into this series because he is such an iconic character. You know, obviously he's in Teen Titans, but he's now part of the Justice League. He's such a huge character. I think it's kind of like putting him in, it makes incentive for us to watch Doom Patrol because Doom Patrol is it's an obscure series. Like it's not a household name. It's not that mainstream, but I'm loving that they implemented him. You know, I think it's also giving him more time to shine. I don't know if he'd shine as much if he was in Titans. So I'm liking that he's like a hero being thrown into this band of misfits because that's kind of screwing with him. And it's also screwing with this band of misfits too. They're like, what the heck's going on? And he's like, well, you know, I'm a hero, but they don't see me as a hero, you know? And no one sees these misfits as heroes.
It's very interesting
so he has to...
that you put it in that phrasing because I wouldn't have thought about it in that way. He didn't fit in and now he's kind of a misfit himself, which I saw. But the whole, you thought he looked out of place with them. Yeah. Is it because he's so shiny and polished compared to them?
He's seen as a hero already.
Yeah.
You know, even,
or at least he thinks so.
Yeah.
They're
Baby
like,
doll thinks so.
Baby doll thinks so. But everyone else had no idea who he was. He leaves Detroit, goes to Cloverton, Ohio, and sees it. My overall thoughts on Cyborg were, first of all, he seemed very young. I was expecting a little bit of an older Cyborg. I understand the Teen Titans aspect, but he seemed extremely young. And I guess he's age appropriate if you think about a 17, 18-year-old Vic Stone. Yeah. Right? However, I was expecting just someone a little more, not seasoned, but older in a way. Okay. A little more chiseled because that's the Cyborg that I'm used to.
He's a beast.
I felt like he should be a bigger person, and he's not. He's kind of small for a cyborg.
His dad needs to kind of install some more parts on him.
Exactly. Like, I mean, make him taller or something. But as an actor, I thought he did a pretty decent, above average job, and I'll explain to you why I felt that way. He played that arrogant, smug role very well, where he comes in and he's like, "I'm Cyborg." He's trying to be humble, but he's like, "I'm Cyborg." That passive aggressive humility that exists. And it was a very humanizing way to portray Cyborg.
Yeah. And right off the bat, like, when you said, like, his performance was phenomenal in this episode. I was, first off, surprised that he was put in episode 2. I didn't think we were going to get him this early. I'm glad that everything turned out the way it did, because just his scene in the wormhole about the accident with his mom. That was powerful. We brought it up.
We get his backstory.
The fact that he's such a highly regarded hero.
And it's a new backstory, by the way. It's new. We get a different one about Cyborg almost every single show he pops up on. Yes. We get a new origin story for Cyborg. On this one, he causes some type of explosion, and basically it causes him extreme at a laboratory. It causes him extreme pain and takes the life of his mother, which is a guilt that he feels like he has to live with.
And he said that he feels that every single day when he goes to sleep, when he wakes up. That was so powerful because you'd look at a hero, you think of someone you look up to, you wouldn't understand or think of first and foremost, oh my gosh, that person is dealing with all of this weight, even though they are like the celebrity, this hero, 100%. Like Cyborg. These are humans. You know, he's a cyborg, but he's a human with emotions that people don't consider. It's like no one thinks that heroes have emotions and they're human, but they are.
Well, let's break down how human he is with the different relationships he has. Starting off with Cyborg and his own father, Silas Stone. What did you think of that relationship?
It seems rocky. I wonder if his dad blames him in a sense for the explosion, killing his wife, obviously. So I doesn't seem like they're on, the best terms, personally. I don't know. What did you think about that?
Obviously their relationship, even the comic books, has always been a rocky relationship. Even of course, in the DC movie with the Justice League, it's always, he's such a conservative disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And Cyborg is just wants the affection of his father. We see some of that. This is the way Dr. Stone shows love. We see that they have that father-son dynamic that's a classic template of the son trying to impress the father living vicariously through the son, and that becoming the reciprocation of a form of love that's distant and cold.
Yeah.
And we see that with Cyborg and his own father.
And it's funny because he made Cyborg after he made him with his wife.
Did, though, but
he's the one who
made him, and then he made him.
Exactly. And by making him into this cyborg, for lack of a better word, it's almost dehumanizing him in like so many different ways. He's becoming this machine, yet he's also becoming less of a human.
Is he a science experiment, or is that his son?
Yeah, exactly. Like he's dehumanizing his son, his relationship to his son. He's still, a human, but that relationship's becoming nothing.
And it's almost becoming professional. He says, you are a full-time job. Cyborg is a full-time job. But at the end, we even see Silas wanting to say something like, well, why are you doing this? And he wants to be like, I always worry about you. And Cyborg's like, well, don't. I'm Cyborg. And he wants to be like, yeah, but you're my son. But he doesn't say it. But you can tell in the demeanor that that's what he really means. I always worry about you. You are my son before you're Cyborg, but not in the relationship that they've established.
Damn, Cyborg got a chip on his shoulder, right?
He does. But on the flip side, we see a very different dynamic between Cyborg and Niles. Now that's a fatherly relationship that actually plays out. Niles is excited every time Cyborg is excited every time Niles comes around. He's a lot more encouraging. He's actually he is to Vic what they wish that Niles would be to the Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
While with the Doom Patrol, he's got this bipolar almost feel where guilt and disappointment and just being controlling. But with Vic, he's way more supportive and doesn't hinder him, and especially invites him to come to the house and be a part of the team. And he sees a son in Vic.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I didn't even realize until you brought that up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that also is a testament to the fact that just because you aren't blood related, like that doesn't mean you can't consider someone a part of your family.
Well, it's easier. It's almost like how a grandparent's always loving to their grandchild, but when you talk to the parents, like, they were never like that with me. I used to get hit. Well, Doom Patrol is the child, and then Vic gets to be the grandchild, where he plays this opposite role. And then, of course, we get this relationship between Cyborg and Robot Man almost right off the bat, where you're looking at the two mechanical figures, but Cyborg, Robot Man and Cyborg are in some ways expressively jealous of one another and their positions and who they are. So Cyborg has human components that Robot Man, of course, envies. Cyborg seems to know what he's doing and be on point and be a leader. And then Robot Man wants to fulfill these roles. But at the same time, you see Robot Man and Cyborg seeing Robot Man's logic and how he's almost more emotional and more human than Cyborg himself.
Yeah.
And plays that part. So they get into it almost off the bat.
No, totally.
Where it's like we get a couple F-bombs. And
I love the F-bombs, by the way.
What would you do? Like, this is what you guys did? Like, it was like 5 minutes. What did you do? Cyborg's already questioning him. Because we see the setup of Cyborg being a hero when he saves Patty at the bank teller, at the ATM machine.
Yeah.
So we see that. And then we see,
it's
him
like,
needing to prove to his dad, I can do more. And then he goes to Cloverton, Ohio, and immediately confronted by the wormhole.
Yeah, and you can see that Cliff, he really, envy Cyborg because he almost wants to be following the footsteps of Cyborg. I feel like
Robot Man.
yes,
Yeah.
Robot Man following in the footsteps of Cyborg.
Of course.
And like what stood out to me is that I said this last week that I feel like Robot Man and Crazy Jane, there's kind of like a daughter
Father-daughter
relationship, a little bit
relationship.
like that.
Of course.
And that was kind of Cyborg kind of like he didn't ruin it, but he would definitely disrupted that this episode because Jane was so enamored with Cyborg at one point, and I think that just kind of disgruntled Robot Man a little bit by seeing that, because that was a moment where I felt like Robot Man envied Cyborg, especially with Baby Doll. Shout out to Baby Doll. I love Baby Doll.
Baby Doll, one of Crazy Jane's personalities, which she has 64. We're going to get into Crazy Jane because that is its own segment on its own, just dissecting.
I don't know where to start.
Disseminating and discerning who Crazy Jane is and who she will be in the Doom Patrol. Let's talk a little bit about Negative Man. Negative Man is truly negative. He is somehow the Eeyore of the situation. And then we get his backstory in the wormhole. What did you think about that?
Well, being a queer man myself, I love that superhero shows and films are finally showcasing these queer identities, these queer heroes that don't often get the spotlight. And I think it's a very relatable situation of kind of running from your identity as a queer person, or not owning who you are and feeling uncomfortable in your body. And I think Negative Man and Rita kind of are similar in that aspect. They feel uncomfortable in their body, not only in the way Negative Man looks, being burnt up, but also how he feels or his sexuality. He's not comfortable in owning who he is.
Well, especially at the time that he was being exposed to in the 60s, being gay wasn't easy. And I don't know if there's a time frame where it was easy, but it's clearly way easier now than it was in the 60s in any form of civil rights of any type, right? So the progression has been a lot more moderate now.
Yeah.
But at the time, and I can't relate to it as empathetically as you can.
Yeah.
But I can sympathize with the concept of the frame. The frame is he's in this role where he's this hot shot test pilot who's just like, and when you think about it, you think of the prototype of Top Gun and the Tom Cruise and the guy, and he's like, and he's got a wife and he's got a kid.
Yeah.
And then we see this backstory, this enamoring backstory of him being actually in a relationship, in a secret relationship with his crewman. We see that the wife who is projected in the plane is basically like, why don't you ever come home? Because he's always been running away.
Yeah.
Then you see that this power that he has within him is actually its own identity. He can't even leave the town because the power won't allow him. He tries to get as far away from Cloverton as possible, and he chooses Ismay and Jenkins and all these places. And the power, this energy, this being, whatever it is, this alien being, which has inhabited his body, the symbiote will not allow him to go because it says you have to stay. And, at the end, he puts a post-it note because, the being saves the day and gets them out of the wormhole. With Negative Man, the being does something positive, and he states, instead of a thank you, says, we need ground rules. And it's like a bunch of these rules are coming to play to see what they play out.
Yeah.
But the backstory, when he pulled up on the stick and like tried to do what he should have done all those times, because we got the backstory before, but not as in depth as this one. How compelling was the story for you?
Sorry, what was it? About
the compelling of the story of the backstory of him being in the crash, and that's ultimately what burned him up, the crash where his family can see it. And how compelling was that to you as an origin story?
I think that's kind of just what ruined everything for him. Not only his looks, but his family. Like, he became this monster. I think he became something that he was running from. I think it goes to show you can't run from who you are. You can't run away from your problems because ultimately they're going to end up ruining you. And it ruined him,
What did you think about him and Rita not wanting to involve themselves and trying to distance themselves, even so much as walking by the fighting and all the craziness. They walked as if nothing was going on, and they tried to basically close their eyes and stay behind a curtain.
I think that's another example of running away from the problem and not working as a cohesive unit. But I really do like the chemistry between those two characters, because they are affected in different ways, but they can relate to each other at the same time. You know, Rita with her looks, and then also Negative Man with his looks as well, but mostly his. Well, they both have mental issues too. Not mental issues, but they both have insecurities. I think.
They both have demons that they're fighting, and you know, when Larry takes his bandages off, I actually was half expecting him to not have any scars or burns whatsoever. I actually would have thought that was even cooler, that he sees himself as a monster, but he's not, that he's completely healed. But then we do see that he is actually extremely burnt.
Giving us Deadpool vibes a little bit. Just a little bit.
It is a lot of Deadpool vibes even throughout this show, the way they talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Rita, because we also get a backstory and a storyline for her. Now we see what created this. We don't know exactly what caused her anguish. We see that she's acting, and then she's kind of a diva, and she doesn't like the way people look.
Yeah.
And then of course because there's a cameraman who only has one arm, he's like, he's an eyesore, I don't want to see him.
Yeah.
And then she falls into the water, and whatever enters her causes her this calamity. So now we see this backstory of her being on set, and it's almost her biggest fear come to life.
Yeah.
Where she is acting, she's back on set. It's her biggest fantasy comeback, where she's back, and as Mr. Nobody narrates it, she's on set, she's doing her lines, she's the star, this diva, this prima donna again. And then she breaks the fourth wall, talks to Mr. Nobody, and instantly everything's gone, and she breaks and she melts. And it was her melting that allowed them to enter the donkey in the first place.
Yes.
You know? So how compelling was Rita's backstory for you?
I think we're learning that Rita's, in a sense, she was a monster before she became this quote unquote monster. She was this diva who looked down on people for how they looked.
I love that.
And then now that she is this quote unquote monster, she's like the best she could have ever. It like personified her as a character you could sympathize with, because you're feeling bad for her. She is very insecure, and this is the way of the creators humanizing this character.
Wow.
You know? So, and it's also kind of like the monstrosities and the horrors of fame, and being this so image conscious. Like I hope she never makes an Instagram, Rita, because that would just be even worse. You know, I'd follow her. I'd like her stuff, but
Rita.
I think it's also very telling of the times as well, how image conscious we are with Instagram and social media, and just how we look to everyone else, the world around us.
So relevant right now. You know who's not image conscious at all? Crazy Jane. We have to discuss Crazy Jane. We have to get into how crazy
I love her.
Her personalities. Now, so we've learned that she has 64 personalities, and she's such an intricate part, and she's clearly the most powerful of all the characters on the show, because not only does she have 64 characteristics, but each one has a different power, except for Jane herself, who has no powers. So each one has an amazing ability, and we've seen a bit of them. What did you think about her just lying tone?
There was a emotional roller coaster, putting
so
that
much.
lightly. I love the performance of Diane. Like, she's killing it. And I know she transforms, but even sometimes she doesn't change at all her appearance. But the personality, the acting, that must be so exhausting as an actor, to go through so many different personalities, so many different dispositions.
In minutes.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
So I just, props to you, Diane. Like, you're killing this role. She's such a wild card, so unpredictable. I never know. We're basically, as viewers and the characters around Crazy Jane, are walking on eggshells with Crazy Jane.
Do you have a least favorite characteristic at this point?
From Crazy Jane?
Yeah.
Whenever she I want them to work as a cohesive unit.
Sure.
So whenever she beats up Robot Man, I kind of am sad. You know, like, he made her a PB&J, and she just threw it. And
She threw it. Yeah, Hammerhead comes off as this B word who just is extremely aggressive and tries to neg everything and everyone and says the most horrible things. So we see Hammerhead. Let's go through a couple of her personalities because this is going to be its own segment. Crazy Jane, we know, of course. Then we have Sylvia, who basically has this the voice, and we see her because this underground that Crazy Jane keeps all her personalities is interesting. Hammerhead is the confrontational personality, and she's got this super strength and maybe invulnerability because she easily punches Robot Man and nothing happens. Hangman's daughter, that's the one we see painting all the time. So the Hangman's daughter's power is that when she's painting, whatever she's painting basically comes to life in a way, right? We also see Sun Daddy. That's the one who has the giant sun head.
Yeah, the Human Torch.
Yeah, in a way. And then Baby Doll, the innocent, childlike personality. We don't know her power yet, but I'm sure it's going to be something amazing. Scarlet, the Scarlet Harlot, that's the one who's kind of like the nymphomaniac, extremely sexual. Yeah. She's the one who says, please touch me, as soon as Cyborg says hi, and she becomes this sexual being. We see Flit, and that's where Robot Man is watching the videos and seeing Flit, and she basically transports or travels to a different dimension. We don't know exactly throughout the room. Wall Crawler, Flaming Katie, Lucy Foog, and then Silver Tongue. I think that's the one that's created just for the show, and that's the one with the words, and they were that was crazy. That. Yeah. So it's just and she has that silver on her face. It's just very cool to watch Crazy Jane go through all these changes. And the thing about it is, if you guys want to read more, Screen Rant did an amazing workup on Crazy Jane and her personalities. So good to watch. Such a great dynamic character.
Yeah.
And plays such a role. We see that father-daughter relationship between Robot Man and Crazy Jane. What are your opinions on that relationship?
Between Robot Man and Crazy Jane?
Yeah.
What stood out to me with Robot Man, I think he learned a lot in this episode with Crazy Jane, because when he was talking to her by the end of the episode, he just kind of, he told her, I just want to, he said something along the lines of, you don't have to tell me everything about you. You don't have to open up. I just want you to feel safe. And I think that was a very fatherly, thing that he did with her. And I would like to think that, like, in the future episodes, Crazy Jane learns to harness her personalities, and so they can work in tandem, so it's less.
But maybe that's not as fun. This is a roller coaster. This is this up and down. You never know what you're gonna get.
But I hope she is able to work with her team.
Do you have a least favorite personality so far? We started out with that question.
I don't know if I like Baby Doll. I like Baby Doll, but then she is afraid of Robot Man, and someone in the chat said Baby Doll doesn't have a power. Ivan Soto said that she has no power. She hasn't manifested a power yet. So
what they have told us is that there seems to be that she will have a power. We just don't know what that power is. And because the only personality that doesn't have a power is supposed to be Jane herself. When she is normal, if there's such a thing, Jane. So that's the concept. I don't know what Baby Doll's power is. Maybe her power is just being a great idolizing fan. I don't know. She does come off as a super fan. We also see Crazy Jane attack Robot Man.
Several times.
Be afraid of Robot Man. Very interesting relationship these two play. We see Crazy Jane is also somehow gonna be a power role. I think she plays some way of getting Niles back. Like, one of her personalities is the defining portion.
Okay.
That's just.
You think that?
I mean, I hope so. Or if not, she's just a disruptive force on the show.
Oh, she's so disruptive. She's so unpredictable, and that's why I love her, but she scares me at the same time.
That's how I feel about Hammerhead. I love her, but I hate her at the same time. She says the meanest things. Even when you were saying, Robot Man is treating Crazy Jane like a daughter. Hammerhead personality is the one that's like, and I'm not your daughter, and we're gluten free, and we don't.
2 of us are allergic.
14 of us don't eat peanut butter, and 12 of us are gluten free, and whatever the numbers are, we get that feel, It's just so harsh. So harsh. So let's talk about the donkey.
Oh.
What is the donkey? Who is the donkey? Where? Well, we know where is the donkey. The donkey exploded. But where is the donkey from?
The donkey is from Old MacDonald's farm. The donkey represents God. I said it. Breaking news. I don't know.
Sheesh.
The donkey's just a jackass, you know?
I mean, the donkey
jackass.
was the key. There's a keyhole. Cyborg scans him. There's a keyhole for him into the netherworld, the wormhole. But the donkey also basically farts out the message, which they read, and so they know that there's a key with this donkey. They don't know how. They figure out that they have to enter the donkey, and that's where Rita is now forced to become the Blob, which she hates becoming the Blob.
Yeah.
She hates it. She despises being the Blob. And she has to become the Blob and basically oozes into the donkey.
Yeah.
And Negative Man decides to go along because they're like, we have to do something. So let's do it. So now we have Negative Man, Rita, and Cyborg inside the donkey. And we get nothing more about the donkey because when they are spit out, after Negative Man's energy expels them from the wormhole and puts everything back, the donkey explodes. So I need to know more about this donkey.
Maybe that's not the last time we've seen a donkey.
Maybe there's more donkeys. There's more clues to the donkey. There's more donkey to go on. Okay. Going into the reason why the donkey even exists, Mr. Nobody. We see a touch of Mr. Nobody in the first episode in the first 5 minutes, where we get this backstory of a person who wanted to become more. And they go and they visit the Nazi scientists and are made into a metahuman. Now, fast forward to Mr. Nobody being the clear antagonist of at least this episode, if not the entire series. What is his relationship with Dr. Niles?
I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
But I feel like he, like you said, he wanted to be something more than what he eventually became. He's like he's literally fragments. He's floating fragments. And I wonder if that's, I don't know. I don't freaking know. I have
Even
no
the clue
freaking
is
clue.
named Nobody, who is Nobody. They even go, well, that's not helpful.
It's funny because I think that he kind of relates to some of the characters too, because they're kind of nobodies at this point, aside from Cyborg.
Do you like his narration?
Oh, totally.
It's
I'm here
amazing.
for this. The way that he breaks the fourth wall. He told Rita she's gonna say absolutely nothing. She's not gonna contribute anything. I love that. Was so freaking. He's hilarious.
Amazing,
Killing
Mr.
it.
Nobody. We can't wait to see more of you, Mr. Nobody. We're gonna get more because clearly. And do you agree with Cyborg? Why else would Nobody lay a trap, make threats, mess with their heads? Is Mr. Nobody afraid of them?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think he's afraid of him.
He's afraid of something.
Maybe
He's
this is-
proving something or not.
Maybe this is his whole scheme to kind of, he just likes to play God in a sense, to mess
Interesting.
with people. But I don't know why he would want to do that to these people who are already ostracized by society.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk, you do a great job. Let's jump into our special segment, Who You? And this is how we're going with Who You. What's the scene and character that you related to the most?
Rita at the end, when she said, I am a star, because I'm a star.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. Mine is going to be, I think it's going to be the concept of Negative Man and in the plane and pulling the stick up and just like saving the day. And is he a hero or is he not? And that being the thoughts that go
And
through his
facing your
head.
fears.
Facing your fears. Very strong. Let's get into our quick news special segment. Screen Rant.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Screen Rant did an entire project on Ezekiel the Cockroach, supernatural reject. Is there more to him? Please read about it. We hear the story is nearly as strange, and of course, we get the soliloquy. Now comes their reckoning. They lash their whips at you, dear Lord, and now they will be lashed with eternal flame. I have been faithful unto death. Crown me and let me be seated by your most holy side. Yes, I am ready, Father, to lead your, and then sucked into the wormhole. Screen Rant does a great concept between the connections between Supernatural and the DC Comics universe are much stronger than one might think at the first glance. Jeremy Carver, the showrunner, is a long-running CW show, and of course, actually wanted Constantine to do a cameo. Find out all about it as we reveal Doom Patrol's executive producer Jeremy Carver and the history of Ezekiel the Cockroach. and actually does an interview with Collider. So it's very fascinating reading. We love you, Ezekiel. We'll see some more of you. Let's jump into predictions.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Thoughts on the next episode, Oliver?
I think Rita has gotten a new sense of who she is by being a star. And
Yeah.
I think these characters are going to realize just because they're, no one really knows who they are, that doesn't mean that they can be stars. I think it's what you do, regardless of anyone who's watching. Like, it's what you do. And if you using your heart and doing good in the world, being productive, and hopefully learning to work together, I think that's a star right there. That's a star, all-star team right there. And I hope that they're able to achieve that.
Well, I really appreciate everything you just said. And I think that the whole teamwork aspect is something that needs to come to play. I think that they learn how to work more. There's a lot more to this mystery. And Mr. Nobody is not done toying with them. We get a lot more Niles Calder, but just not, I don't know if we get him in the next episode. I think he still goes missing because that's the moving forward action. And I think we get a little more Crazy Jane being crazy, but Robot Man being the only one that's able to get to her or control her in some way. And by control, I mean just ease her pain. So we'll find out a lot more. I think we get a lot more backstory. And I can't wait for the next episode. And I can't wait to see more of you. Oliver, where can people find you if you want to be found?
What's up, everyone? Follow me on all social media platforms at Ollie Dreamer.
Love it. And my name is Tehran. I am Tehran because I am Tehran all across the board. That's IG, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me. And I host and panel on a slew of AfterBuzz after shows right here. And all things talking when it comes to comic books, I'm usually on that panel. So talk to me, comment, write me, hate me, love me, whatever you want to do. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you same Doom Patrol time, same Doom Patrol channel this time next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Can't wait for the next episode.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.